Hi everyone. As it was introduced, I'm working mostly in data products, so maybe that's why I love Big Bang Theory. Today I would like to talk about UX and AI, but from a little bit another perspective. So 4 years ago, I moved to Switzerland, and this is where my journey with AI algorithms and UX started. I worked for a big company who is making sensors across different industries, from healthcare, automotive to environmental. And based on that, they also create many businesses. I also explored this topic at Basel School of Design regarding user research methods for AI products, and I will talk a little bit later about that. So let me start with the AI. AI is not a new topic. We have, of course, right now a hype around generative AI. Around 2017, we call it mostly machine learning, which is a subset of AI. So we have these ups and downs, but what is very repeatable, we still are very tech-driven, right? We are excited about new models, but somehow we are not there where we would like to be. And this is called by the specialists as the AI innovation gap. And there are many reasons around that, why we are not yet there. And one of the most significant is AI is not solving the right problem. Sounds familiar, right? So what we face as a challenge is a collaboration between designers and data scientists. I will use some simplification in my presentation. So when I will talk about designers, it means also UX researchers and innovators. When I talk about data science, it's everything about AI engineers, data engineers, algorithm engineers. And I would like to share with you 9 things, what I did, which helped me to enhance this collaboration, and how I changed this status to this status. So let me start with the first one. User algorithmic experience. Have any of you heard about that before? Not really. It's not a very popular concept. But when we have a product, we can distinguish a part of that which is driven by the model and the data behind. So usually in the platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram, we design the interface, but behind is more, right? And this has a huge impact on the user experience, so what kind of content people get. And I distinguish this as 3 layers. So it's a data, it's a model, and then it's an interface on top. And it's extremely helpful when you collaborate with data science, because suddenly they stop to think about user experience as something what is about interface and belongs to the front-end or back-end developers, but something what they are also responsible for. So it creates the ownership. And this naming, this very simple change helped me to make a first step in the land of the data science. So it was just the beginning of different struggles, because it turned out that we don't speak the same language. They wanted to open, to collaborate, and they started to talk to me about uncertainty, about accuracy, about true positive, true negative, and I had no idea what they are talking about. So it was my job to do. I had to learn a lot about this concept, to try to understand what they are talking about. I didn't need to dive that deep to know a complicated math behind, but I had to know what are the limits and capabilities of different models, what we use in the products. So this was the second thing which helped a lot to communicate. But then was the next struggle, because these products are usually very complex. So there is not a one single model when you can simply say, okay, there are steps, but they work independently and they create a lot of inequalities in the user experience. But this knowledge about what is behind helped me to step by step distinguish these parts, and then we could dive deeper together and start to investigate where we have problems and why. Involving data scientists in the user research results sounds very usual, but I have the impression that data scientists, because they are working on so very abstract problem, they are not the first stakeholders who are invited to participate in this kind of presentations. And I think it's a big mistake, because they are working in very similar way like we work. They try to solve problems, and they try to model reality. So as much as they know about the reality, it's changed also the way how they approach the problem solving. Next thing was to involve them in the workshop together. So instead to work in silos, every time when we had a problem, a user problem, we sit together and say, okay, let's take a look on that. What does it mean on my side? What does it mean on your side? Maybe there are things what we can do to improve the overall experience. And sometimes turn it out that this change can be easily done on their side. Sometimes it was on my side to do. But significant change was in the moment when, after 2 years, they started to come to me and say like, hey, we have a problem. We would like to talk with you about that because we are not sure what we can do. Let's approach this more holistically. And every time when we create this kind of product, on the data science side is a set of different parameters. And we can have an influence how we translate these parameters into the user output. It requires a lot of user research to understand the overall concept. Because, for example, if you want to know, will you be on time tomorrow on work, maybe you are just interested in the simple statement. It will happen or not. But if we will change the context, it matters, because suddenly for the specialists to know much more about how the model present the outputs also helps them to make a better decisions. Another thing what I also started to use is to use the power of visual language. So when we talk about AI, there is a lot for the abstract concepts behind. And we started very simply. We started to draw some processes on the paper, step by step, to understand what is behind. It helped us also to talk about specific aspects, but it also helped me a lot to talk with the users. This is a part which belongs to my research at the university. And the problem is that we don't know, or we don't have that many methods how to actually research algorithmic experience with users, right? How to talk to them about these abstract concepts. And there are many studies done about that, when the psychologists tried to go within deep interviews and ask several questions to the users, like from the Instagram platform or LinkedIn platform, to understand how this mechanism works for them. And they struggle a lot, because when they ask the question, users didn't understand the question. They didn't ask about simple stuff on the interface. They tried to understand more deeper how the mechanism works. And these interviews were very short and not really insightful. So at the end, we know something, but we cannot do anything with that. And my research question in this study was like, how can we find another way to talk with the users, with someone who is completely not technical, to grasp their experience and turn out this into some insights for data science, which starts to be meaningful also for their work. And I explored a lot of visual methods, because visual language has a power and break down these abstract concepts. So we made the experiment when we talked with the people firstly about their experience, and we went with the set of the questions. And in the second group, we show them some visuals about the mechanism behind the application, and we ask these questions once again. And I, of course, was positive about that it could be interesting output, but I didn't expect what happened. So actually, these interviews started from 15 minutes, extend to 1.5 hours. People started to talk what they really experience in the application, and they didn't mention before because they didn't have this connection between algorithm and their experience. So it really helped them speak up and open what kind of different situations they faced when they say like, hey, it was actually very weird, right? Why it behaved like that, or it doesn't make sense to me. Moreover, they also started to find it between different applications. So not only speak about specific, like Instagram in this case, but also they started to see these relations to the other platforms. So I strongly believe that visual language has a underestimated power. We forgot a little bit about that, and maybe in user research we talk a lot about metrics a lot. But this actually could build a great bridge between users and researchers when we talk about algorithm and this AI mechanism behind. And another challenge what we face in this AI concept is and AI systems is, of course, need for continuous learning, right? So we know that these systems needs be fed constantly with the new data. And firstly, users often don't know that they have influence on the model. This was also one of my discovery. They're not aware about that, because also applications are built in the way that behind we grasp a lot of stuff, but we don't give the direct input maybe for the users sometimes that they can do something about. And second thing is that when we talk with data science about how much data do they need, they will always in the first step tell you as much as possible, right? But when you dive deeper into discussion with them and ask what does it mean as much as possible, actually for what do you need it, what kind of goal do you try to reach, it starts to be specific number. And with this specific number, you can also do something. I found extremely helpful to use gamification mechanisms in the application which require user output. In some cases, we can validate the predictions of the models only by the humans, right? They can just tell us if did it meet the reality or not. So in this case, I used several small elements which show them that they are also responsible in some way for the model quality, and they have actually the impact on that. And this is this magic word what we talk about, the impact, right, many often. And I believe that you can make an impact also in your organization, because when I started, I was the first designer in this big company. They never heard about UX before. So it was kind of a challenge. But at the end, it's very satisfying when you see that with this holistic approach, you can increase the user model feedback loop. So actually, we get this good quality of the data. You see that you can deliver meaningful user research results to data science. You start to talk with them in the same language, and they consider your findings as an important element to make further decisions in their work. It's also when you consider the entire context about the solution. So actually, what kind of the output my users expect, how this solution can help them. I think it's not that obvious. And often, data scientists are thinking in the way how the model works, but they forgot about the real context and several scenarios which are not including in that. So to bridge this together helps us to build more realistic solution. I think the impact is also when they come to the conclusion that, hey, we need to change some data structure to build some required feature, something what we need see that the users needs, and deliver that. And then the end is with, of course, your whole team take the more holistic approach. So we stop to talk about silos, we stop to talk about design and engineering and business, but we do stuff really all together. And if I may leave you today with the one message, it could be, don't be hyped, because of course AI is a hype today, but it doesn't change that the technology is here. There are different models, different directions where will be developed. And if you will be curious, if you dive deeper, you can start really to create the impact and work on the user experience, not on the level of the interface, but also much more deeper. That's all from my side. I would be happy to talk with you more. If you have some questions or reflections, just contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, very much for your presentation. We'll start in 7 minutes with the next one. This session is without questions, so if you have any to Maria, you can catch her somewhere here around. And Maria, thank you very much.